Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back once again to another video. We're back here for this next watch along today. Look, it's summer. World Cup is here. Watch these games, man. We gotta get to it. So we're back again. We do have a few things to discuss that we'll get to in just a second here in the meantime, because obviously as we've been away for a few hours, more and more noise, more and more stuff, more and more things are coming out. Some good, some not good, some true, some not true. And I wanted to touch on all of that. I'm still trying to sort through like all of the noise on this, on everything that's being reported, because there's a lot of noise for sure. There's a ton of noise out there on, post this. You obviously get everybody rushing to say stuff, rushing to do stuff, rushing to say, this or that and the other. It is kind of funny because if you go off of just like the front end, you get this idea that like, oh, nobody's available and all that. But I watched Fabrizio's video where people were talking about him saying, we're not going to pay the wages and all that. I think that it's totally different than the way people are presenting it and the way that it's been aggregated. Like what he said, how he said it, what he was saying there, totally different. Sorry. Yeah, so there's quite a few things to talk about on this front. Rio obviously ramping things up on Tchouameni as well, continuing to say what we're all thinking and what I'm thinking too, and what seems to be the case. Every report that has come out is naming Tchouameni, and I'm still asking, is it not going to just be
James,
Tchouameni?
when we going for group therapy, pal?
Group therapy. Let's get to the end of summer, because you have to do therapy once your trauma is over. Our trauma is still ongoing, okay? But I'll explain all of that in just a minute. Give me 1 second here. First, I do want to just briefly touch on this Matheus Fernandes situation and the bid or sort of offer that United were making. My understanding of the bid itself, or of the offer that United were willing to do, was by the end, they were looking potentially reaching a total of maybe £80 million, not above that. The guaranteed amount, as I understand it, was quite a bit less than that, like in the 60s. And our biggest kind of real offer that we made was closer to totaling 70 or so in realistic add-ons. With realistic add-ons included, it was in the 60s range plus a little bit of add-ons to take it up to about 70 or a little over. That was my information as of like yesterday and 2 days ago. And they were realistic add-ons, and we thought that was probably the best offer we could do. I think they stretched a little bit to include some additional add-ons on top of that. But I think those were, a bit more of your, yeah, it's worth it if it happens type of clauses, but they did not, as far as I know, increase the upfront fee. And that has been, essentially one of the biggest limiting factors for United, and where they're hedging their bets in terms of the valuation of the player and such as the upfront, what you're guaranteed to pay. Because if you pay 60, 65, bit of an overpay, fine. But the add-ons, hedge your risk on this. The fee getting all the way up to 80 was only... Those would have only happened if he became like a world beater and United won the Premier League and, and other like big things to get to that level. It's not like appearances, minutes stuff. He would have had to do big things to get to that. So that's fair. That's where we're at. That's totally fine. Like I said, I think they added a bit more of those unlikely add-ons on top by the end, here in sort of their final offer. But Spurs were just ready to drop the 85 million up front. United weren't even close to that. Honestly, there was about a 20 million gap. So Spurs ended up paying the huge amount. I believe it was about 20 million in terms of what was actually guaranteed difference between 20 million difference between what Spurs were actually offering guaranteed and what we offered. at the end of the day. A big difference in that front. And that's to be expected because United were going to hold to their valuation. They were never coming anywhere close to the 80 million pounds upfront type of deal. It just was never going to happen. So that's my understanding at the very least on that. Okay, that's where I'm at in terms of the bid itself. There's a few reports out there talking about it. From what I can gather, I'm on that side of things in my understanding that we were still in that 60 to 65 plus range. And again, as yesterday, day before, my information was we were willing to do an offer and had communicated that was over 70. But the upfront was always below that. The upfront was always in the 60s or low 60s, and that's just where they were at. They were willing to go stretch a bit, use the add-ons to say, all right, fine, market's gone up a bit, etc. Here's the thing, okay? I'm fine with that. That makes sense to me. That's kind of the basic use of how you would use add-ons correctly. If we go and approach a deal for Alex Scott, see, people are thinking, oh, 80 million. Okay, what if it's 70, 75 million for Alex Scott because they want a 75 million clause later and he doesn't want to set a new contract? What if it's 70 to 75 million for Alex Scott, who's running down on his contract, but it's also just 60 million up front? Well, Bournemouth are in a different situation to West Ham. Bournemouth could, I think there's more reality, more potential that, that United could get a deal done there. I think that one actually feels sensible when you start thinking, because people don't think about add-ons and stuff. First of all, the biggest thing here is that Spurs were willing to pay 85 million pounds up front. If Spurs were not willing to pay 85 million pounds up front, this deal gets done for United at like 60 plus 10. Like, do people realize that? Like, that's the truth, right? If Spurs weren't involved in it, 60 plus 10 probably gets the deal done. Well, for Bournemouth, it's probably the same thing. Arsenal are not going to pay. Listen, I told you in the previous stream, Arsenal walked away from Matheus Fernandes the minute they heard it was over 60. They're not going to pay 80 million for Alex Scott. Okay, I promise you, they're not going to go anywhere near that. They're probably going to be interested in, I believe their initial inquiry was in the range of 50 to 55. Spurs just did a Chelsea and just dumped an absurd amount of money on a deal that no one else was ever going to come even close. Like I said, we were far off their initial, kind of guaranteed package on this. So far off, okay? Spurs were in crazy land with what they're offering that nobody else in football was going to come close. So one can say that, that's the market now. I don't think that's true. But it is what it is. With Alex Scott, certainly, the bid, if we go for an offer now, I don't think it'll be immediate, but if we go for an offer, I think it'll be closer to the 60 upfront range plus add-ons. And then, he'll be pushing for a deal. I mean, they may end up accepting something with a 75 million total package, and it's only 75 million if he becomes a really great player and we win stuff, and then it's worth it. But with more of that 60 upfront, I think that it won't happen unless it's in that range. But I don't think that's ultimately out of the question that United make that offer to Bournemouth. Again, that's sort of the view of how they can manage this. If you recall, with Brian and Mbumo, the first thing that they really tried to do, which, look, add-ons are add-ons. Obviously, every deal includes add-ons. The first deal we tried to do with Mbumo, some of the offers we made originally were in the range of 55 plus 10 or something to try to bridge the gap. 55 plus 10, 55 plus 15. Sometimes clubs ask for everything up front. Fine, no one's going to pay that. The contract situation around Scott changes things a little bit there too. So I think that it's still quite doable for Alex Scott in that range. I do. I think it's really plausible that United can still get a deal done with add-ons and things like that for him. So we have to think about that before everybody gets all, negative about, oh, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Steam
You know,
locomotive
it could.
emoji. Steam locomotive emoji. Cost.
The price I've heard for Tchouameni, what Madrid would be looking to get for him, considering his contract situation, as well as in the 80 million range. Now, listen, on Tchouameni, I watched the video from Fabrizio talking about that. This has been so dramatized in its aggregation of how he said it, as if it were some explicit definitive statement. No. First of all, he said, at this moment in time, the wages, the wages and cost of the deal are a bit too high for United. Okay, well, we haven't even entered negotiations. We haven't even made an offer. Of course it's going to be too high. Every deal starts too high, and then you negotiate and you work it down. That's all, and there's ways to balance this out. You also have Tchouameni, in the standpoint of negotiating with Madrid, in terms of his contract situation and all that. And he said even like 2 or 3 times in the message in that video that he was going, that he would need to, that this is a situation that could absolutely change, that we'll keep an eye on, that in this moment the cost is too high. Okay, so we're not willing to pay exactly what is being offered or anything like that. We're not willing to do that at this point. All right, fine. It's cool. That's fine. Tchouameni wants a bit more money. Tchouameni is saying, hey, understandably, he's saying to Madrid, listen, I'm under a contract for you. You want to force me out? You better, well, I'm going to want some pay. I want a pay bump, things like, but it's the same thing with the contract. Because here's one of the things you guys have to bear in mind. And I did realize this a minute ago. Listen. Madrid have 2 choices. Hold on. You got to think now. Think, please. Madrid have 2 choices. Sell or renew his contract. I'll tell you what he cannot do right now, before he's met with Madrid, before it's a certainty that it's going to be sold. He cannot demand a lower wage from us than he would ask for from Madrid for a contract renewal. And there's your answer to the whole situation right there. You hear me? Because if he were to renew at Madrid, he'd be negotiating with Madrid for a higher wage to renew his contract at Madrid. He has 2 fronts to think about here. The statement of his wages, or his wages being high and all of that, is not just a statement to United. It is a statement to Madrid. He is not, because it is not a sure thing that he's being sold, in a situation where he can say, it's fine, United, I will take the same wages I'm on now. Because if he ends up staying at Madrid, he needs to leverage a new contract. That's him and his agents doing their job. Until Madrid confirm he's for sale, which will probably not happen, between him, his agents, and Madrid, it will probably not happen till later, if it happens, within maybe the next couple of weeks. It could happen during the World Cup, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was after. But until that happens, he cannot sit there and say, I'm going to take lower wages and give us the in for lower wages, because he still has to negotiate with Madrid too right now. It's not a sure thing. There's no defined path as of yet. So him and his people doing their job, not losing out on leverage with Madrid. As simple as that. That is the answer to the whole thing, by the way. So it's up in the air. It's an unknown. It's at this moment. Why? Because he's telling Madrid, the price he's telling us is the same price he's telling Madrid for his contract, for a contract renewal. You understand? It's the same thing. Okay? So, patience on this is obviously what's going to be needed. And obviously it's not what we want right now, but United and Madrid could obviously speed that up. If United come to Madrid now and say, okay, look, we want to pursue this deal for Tchouameni. We want to make this happen. We want to move this thing forward. So tell him that that renewal is off the table. You're being sold. Give us a fee that works, and we'll get it done with him. And then it'll happen. Like, that's what United can do in this situation if Madrid do want to sell. Okay? And I hope so. I hope that's the case. I hope that's what we do. There's definitely a chance we do that with this target now. The other thing Fabrizio said that's really important to understand is as well, that, again, that seems to skip over people's minds, and this is what I said after the Mateus deal, is that that's old info. That's before Mateus Fernandes was sold. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at our budget, you have your valuations and you have your caps, but you can shift it. There's wiggle room within that, largely dependent on what you are spending elsewhere. With Mateus Fernandes off the table, that's 65 to 70 million we were looking at spending, earmarked, while this Tchouameni stuff's been going on in the background. So that affects how much we have to put towards a Tchouameni. Now that this is gone, we probably have a bit more wiggle room here, okay? Because there's a world where we're going to have to spend big on that player. And if we're going to spend big, we want it to be on someone we really rate. And maybe the third one is a little bit smaller. So there can be a reshuffle in what we're willing to do in these instances.
You keep saying they have a plan. What's the evidence of that? That it's only June? And how the F are we suddenly poor even after UCL qualification? Reeks of incompetence.
I mean, do you expect them to tell you the whole plan? I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, what is the plan here? What are we expecting them to say it? Like, what are we doing? You know, the evidence of the plan is that, I mean, what the hell? I'm sure they have a plan. You know, I'm sure they have a plan. I mean, what else can we say? Are we going to suggest they don't have a plan? I mean, that seems just as silly as anything else. You know, they have a plan. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Of course we have a plan. You know, the evidence of that is that we've built up the whole thing. Spent months scouting, working on players, contacting people, building lists, meeting with agents, doing all of that. I mean, there's a plan. So whether they execute it or not is a different question, and that will be determined when we get to the end of it. You know, but how else? What are they going to do? You know, promote it to the market. Hey, we're buying X, Y, and Z, and then, you know, it is what it is. Again, guys, Fabrizio never said we wouldn't get involved in the Tchouameni thing. He said at the moment the cost is too high. That's very, very different. Practically every deal we've ever been involved in, at the moment the cost was high. You know, so it's okay. But listen, like I said here, I think that, again, with when it comes to Tchouameni, in his situation, he's obviously at the World Cup for France. They're probably the favorites to win the whole thing. I doubt he even wants to talk about what happens with Madrid right now. So at the moment, his focus, what he's doing, what he's there, is going to be about the World Cup. At the moment, his agent is going to do his job and keep his leverage on his situation, because we don't know where it's going to end up yet. We are not certain he's going to be sold. Even if he was going to be sold, you'd want to see offers on the table and saying, yeah, I'm going to leave type of thing before he would be sold. So I'm not really worried about that. Again, the same situation kind of goes for Alex Scott because of the contract. When it becomes a situation, you know, when he meets with Bournemouth, when these discussions happen, then it can kind of move forward. But I do expect United to move on to the next thing soon. I mean, they're not going to sit on this forever, especially following kind of bad news. You know, they don't like to do that kind of stuff. They're going to want, you know, they are at least semi-cognizant of You know, they understandably they're not going to bow to fans. You know, they're not going to bow to fans going crazy, but at the same time, like, they are cognizant that they need signings in the door soon. I mean, the crazy part here is that if you actually look at it, is that Alex Scott is like our only signing we could get that could actually even join us for preseason. So in terms of like, there's a rush, you know what I mean? Like in terms of, you know, we need to get something done now type of thing. Well, there's nothing to do there. Alex Scott is the only player that could join us now. Nemcha's going to be on holiday for 3 weeks. Tchouameni still at the World Cup. Who else, you know? What are we going to do here, you know? So we're not going to get anybody for a while. Wharton could join us, but he's clearly, and I think if you can get Tchouameni, Wharton becomes great. There is one other guy that I don't want to necessarily come back to, but we're going to come back to because I've been thinking about it, discussing it, and wondering about this as well. And of course, his name keeps getting brought up. And again, look, it was pretty strong that, you know, United were not pursuing a deal for Carlos Baleba. I will tell you that. It was very strongly put on that front that United were not pursuing a deal for Carlos Baleba. However, I don't know 100% why, and I still have never figured that out as to exactly why. But what I can say is this. His value was certainly viewed lower than what they were asking for. They valued him in the 50 to 55 range. And here's what I'm looking at. The price was 70. Doesn't look like a terrible value anymore. You know, if you value him just slightly under Matheus Fernandes and similar to Alex Scott, where you start the summer thinking, probably not worth the money. Out of our range. We're not going to pursue him. We have better targets. You come back to it now and you go, okay, you know, post-market adjustment a little bit. It's much more in range. It's still a little high, but maybe 60 plus 10 for Baleba gets the job done now. Maybe 60 plus 10 is fair now when it comes to Carlos Baleba. You know, maybe you're going, yeah, that is in range, and it's not a huge overpay from United's standpoint. Certainly conversations have been held and the price was given as to about 70 million. So I don't know. Does Brighton not now? I don't believe this thing that suddenly everybody's raised all their prices. I don't think that's true. For one, because in the market, these prices are given oftentimes via agents, and they make that agreement ahead of time, and they risk ruining the relationships with the agents and the players in those cases, okay? One thing just to know, I think it's bullshit. I look, I've said this before, but I think it's bullshit. This thing about, oh, now the market is blah. Now the market is blah. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. Look, Elliot Anderson's price was always going to be, it was quoted since the start of summer, record fee, right? Months, record fee, English record. They want a record fee for him. Okay, so he went for 116 million. He went for the record fee. Okay. Matheus Fernandes, the alteration that happened here, although I'm still not convinced that this was even true because there was not actually good reports on it, is that new ownership came in. Some people were suggesting that if he was relegated, he would not be sold at all. But if they were relegated, that the financial situation would mean he would have to be sold. I don't think Matheus Fernandes was even for sale, like at all, at any price, if he wasn't relegated. That's what it kind of sounded like. At the same time, you know, the new ownership came in and allowed them to hold out for a higher fee. That was a changing situation. New ownership, new investment, all of that. Second to that, otherwise, most of these players have had prices given. Most of these players have had prices given to their representatives, intermediaries, and agents from the end of the season to the start of summer, and they can't really renege on that. Some clubs do. I've told you before, West Ham is a weird club. That's why I didn't want United to get involved in that situation around Mateus. But they're a weird club. But most of the times, clubs can't go back on that and freak out. You know what I mean? Look at Tonali. Has his price gone up? No. You know, it was always 100 million. It was always 100 million. Now it's still, guess what? 100 million. It didn't go to 120. It didn't go to 130. Alex Scott, there is a price that's been named. The complication is they want a contract. It's not about the price necessarily. It's about the contract. If he doesn't sign, you know, they're going to push for a contract. So it's a negotiation on that front. I don't think that the prices have actually like randomly, magically changed in the market. Most all of the prices are what they are a week ago. They are what they were 2 weeks ago. They are what they are a month ago. I don't think it's actually changed. So Baleba's price at the start of summer, I don't think it suddenly changed. Here's where prices do change. In the last 2 weeks of the window. You approach someone at the end of the window, they want more money because they have to go out and buy someone, right? You want more money because they have to go replace, and sometimes it's harder and the prices are inflated and all of this kind of stuff. So, you know, that can make a difference. But I don't think at this stage the prices have actually changed that much. I think it's just something that gets said. You know, but for the most part, players, clubs, agents have agreements. And they're not just going to say, now it's 20 million more. You know, I just don't think that's the case. So, yeah, I mean, look, we just have to wait and see who they move for next. Just have to wait and see who they move for next. And then we'll figure it out from there. You know, but until then, we don't know. And I think there's just an enormous amount of assumptions being made on this. Apparently, let me ask you guys a question. Apparently, Ruben Amorim wants Lisandro Martinez. What's going on here? Oof. Apparently, Ruben Amorim wants Lisandro Martinez. What do you guys think about that? Would you sell and allow us to get to Milan and allow us to go get a center back? Where do you guys stand on this? For me, it's like a ready-made solution for a lot of stuff, if that's possible. You get to move on a player with injuries to a league that probably suits him a lot better, to be honest. I actually think that's a great league for Mbappe. Is it offside? Offside. He moves to a league that suits him. You have these injury issues. It clears up space for Aiden Heaven, and it gives you money to spend on someone else. I'm pretty for it if that was the case. I think it solves it gives us like a huge solution to a problem that we have. Yazdan, thank you for the small donation. I don't know if you meant to send a message, but there wasn't one. If you type something out, I will read it. I would probably sell him if you could get like 30 million, something like that. How many years has it been? 4? He's going into the last year of his contract. Yeah, I would sell. With all the injuries and stuff, the fit, the ages, stuff like that, if it allowed us to get a center back now, I think it's a huge, huge improvement. Can he hire Mendes first? That would be nice. And it's just because it gives us a problem solved. You know what I mean? There's just a problem solved. You know, again, it's a player who, unfortunately for him, hasn't. Maybe 2 years left. I don't know. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't. No, wait. First season, second season. No, he's got 1 year left plus an option. Yeah. 1 year left plus an option. 30 is more than enough for a player who hasn't been able to play half of his minutes at United from fitness and injuries. I think 30 was probably overpriced, to be quite honest. Like, imagine for a moment we were trying to buy a player with a year left on their contract who'd missed a ton of time with injuries and missed 2 years with injuries and ACLs. How much would we pay? If we paid 30 million, I think people would go, we got robbed. We just bought Ederson, prime age, no injuries.
Percentage chance we sign Choo steam locomotive emoji.
I'm at 40%. We just bought Ederson for 35 million pounds, no injuries, 27 years old, and people are saying it's an overpay. Excuse me? I think 30 is probably overpriced. We'd probably only pay 20 for it, you know, at this point in time. If you compare it to Ederson on the other side, where we just paid 35 million for a player in his best years without the injury history of a similar, you know, man. That's crazy. So, yeah, I think 2025 is probably fair, to be honest. Availability is a big deal. You know, when you factor in the injuries and stuff, no one's going to pay more than that, realistically. Still, it saves quite a lot in terms of I think Licha would do really, really, really well in Serie A. Because you're talking about his passing, you're talking about things like that, but, like, okay, cool. But, yeah, if you can't be available in the Premier League, then so be it. You know, then it doesn't really matter. Serie A, bit less physical, bit slower style of play. I think he'd do great. I think he would do great. I think he would do really well there and have a less chance of getting injured and things like that. But yeah, I would sell and replace if that was the case, if that was an offer coming in, especially when you don't have, you know, especially when you have so much, like, we're having a few issues selling here, you know. We're definitely having a few issues selling here, no doubt about that. Because, not surprisingly, it's a lot of these old deals that we just are struggling with, you know. One would Leach like to go to? Would Milan have any money left? I don't know. Those are questions I don't know. It's more hypothetical because I haven't heard anything on it. I'm not suggesting it. Yeah. Let me get the the France game going here. Hold on a sec. The time is off. Give me 1 second. I'll fix it.
If they take Mount in a double deal, then yes.
We're not selling Mason Mount. I'm sorry to tell you guys. Guys, I've told you before this. We're not selling Mason Mount because the type of bath that we would have to take on that deal to get it done is impossible to sell. It makes him unsellable because we have to take a bath on the deal so much that it's not worth it. It's better to keep him and have him as your... I was saying earlier in the Discord and Patreon chat that I'm relying on Mason Mount for 900 minutes. He's given us 900 minutes a season since he's been here, which is insane how little that is. But I'm relying on him for 900 minutes. Taking a huge loss on Mason Mount, paying off wages and stuff, United aren't prepared to do that. But we can get 900 minutes out of him. That puts him in fifth or sixth choice probably sixth choice category. You know, 900 minutes is all I'm asking for. And I think he could serve a purpose in that sense. I think he can give us some value at 900 minutes. And we can, we can work with that. And he can help us. Some league cups, some things like that. I mean, what you're talking about, how many games is that? That's like 15 games. That's fine. That gives you league cups, a few FA cups, sub appearances here and there. That means you need your starter, Manu, Bruno. Let's think about this. Let's say you have a 55 games season. Let's say you have a 55 game season. You have 3 midfield slots. Let's say you have 3, because Mount could play in all of them. 55 game season, 3 midfield slots.
Would Alex Scott price now be inflated like MF?
Look, we discussed this. I don't think it's relevant to the situation. I think the situation around Alex Scott is simple. If he's going to sign a new contract, that's what they're hoping for. That's what they're going to negotiate on that basis. The price probably going to be in the 70 range, to actually get a deal done if he's not going to sign a new contract and if he informs Bournemouth, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't think that's inflated. I think that's just, I thought Sweden were going to score there. You'd sell Martinez, but not Mount. I didn't say that. I said we can't. I said Mount is unsellable because of the fee and the wages and how much time is still left on his contract. Lissandro's in a final year of his contract. That means that he's only amortizing about 10 million. His wages are lower. It's easy to sell him and turn a profit. For Mount, you can't. You can't. You just can't. You're just going to lose money. So why lose money when you can have him do 900 minutes in the season?
For 50 and Tchouameni.
We should get Keith Smith. Yeah. Keith Smith, I mean, I don't know much about him. I think he's more of an attacking midfielder. But yeah, if you can get Tchouameni, I don't give a shit who the third one is. I'd be pretty happy. But, I guess what was I got totally distracted from. 55 games, 3 midfielders. That's 165 games. If Mount can take 15 of those, that leaves you with 150 games. Bruno, we know, can do 50. Cobby can do probably 40. If you sign Tchouameni, you can do 45, 50. That gives you most of the games covered. Let's say this. 165 games you have to play. There's subs and stuff, right? But in terms of starting, let's say everybody could do 45 to 40. And Mount can do 15. So 45 for Bruno, 40 for Cobby, 45 for Tchouameni, let's say. That gives you 125 games covered, 25 for Ederson, 15 for Mount. Your midfield is covered in that case. And then it's sub appearances and all that. So my point is that was probably always going to be the case. Fortunately, with Bruno, we have a very robust player. It's really important that the second guy we signed, the big signing, is very robust, like Tchouameni. And then Ederson is also a guy who doesn't really get injured. So we'll have plenty of coverage in the team. In that case, Mount being 6th choice, I'm not worried about. It's not like I can't see a world where he becomes super needed. I just can't see that. We'll have failed if Mason Mount becomes super, super necessary. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I would start to be worried in that case. If Mason Mount becomes a key player for the rest of the season that we need to start games a lot, I'm starting to worry. Oh, what a save. Holy. Do you get annoyed at people saying Ineos have no ambition when we have no idea what Ineos have planned? I just think it's stupid in general. What does that mean? What does ambition mean? Like, first of all, what's Ineos? Second of all, what's United? Third, what does ambition mean to people? It's annoying from the standpoint of, I don't care about who you're criticizing. It's annoying from the standpoint of it. It's like, oh my God, what? Whoa. It was offside, right? Mbappe off the post. That was offside, right? Make me feel better and say that was offside. Not offside. That was onside. Mbappe missed. Oh my God. It was onside. Holy cow, how does Mbappe miss there? Anyway, Jesus. Crazy game already. But that was nuts. What is ambition? You know, Ineos have set out probably 250 million to spend this summer, man. You know, I told people when Ugarte was injured, we get 3 signings still. David Ornstein confirms. We've done the finances. We'll get our three midfielders. So it's not about ambition. They didn't go. Lack of ambition would be saying, "Oh, Ugarte's injured. We're not going to buy anybody now." That would be lack of ambition. That would be that would be lame because Ugarte's not in the plans. He wasn't in the plans. Ambition would be setting out your stall and saying, we want to win a title. Oh, that was close from Rabiot. Ambition is you set out a goal. We want to win the league. Here's what we need to do it. Okay? And you just move forward to try and do it. That's what they're doing. You know, that's it. Nothing else has actually happened. Besides that, at this point in time, nothing's changed. You know, player gets injured. Okay, we're going to go. Ineos isn't the club. The money is there. Omar and Jason have to figure out how to spend it. Now, not blowing half of it on a player they don't think is worth it ain't a bad thing. It ain't a bad thing. You know? To me, it's great. You know? So, it's up in the air, man. But yeah, I'm very curious. Look, the 3 names that are getting the most, revisiting this, the 3 names that are getting the most attention as potential United signings. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong buttons. Sorry. Let me move this graphic for a moment because I keep accidentally doing something that's screwing me up. Look. The 3 names that United are still being linked to consistently in the midfield that keep coming up over and over and over again are Tchouameni, Alex Scott, and Carlos Baleba. Now, early on, in Carlos Baleba, we heard he's not going to be pursued. And he wasn't. And he hasn't been since that point in time. We heard that. I was told that. That's seemingly true. His price is around 70 million. They valued him significantly lower than that. But with the way that the market has moved, he might look like better value here. Perhaps that is a deal we revisit at some point. Maybe a 60 plus 10 or a 55 plus 10 type of deal could get done for Baleba, and that would be more palatable at this point. For Alex Scott, they don't want to sell. They want him to sign a new contract. Nothing here is going to happen until he discusses that with the club. They're going to want to enter into negotiations. They're going to want to enter into those contract talks and get that done. If he shows no open to it and said, look, I'll move, I want to go. There are offers that are coming in. Great. But that hasn't happened yet because he's away at preseason. So there will be discussions on that front. With add-ons, United could potentially reach a deal that has a more realistic starting price, but, with add-ons could reach a higher point that suits Bournemouth if he becomes the player that they want. With Tchouameni, at the moment, fine. Wages too high, demands are too high. Not 100% that he's leaving Madrid because he's at the World Cup and because of 2 things. Him and his contract situation with Madrid as well. He cannot give up his leverage on Madrid as well by saying, oh yeah, I'll take a lower fee, a lower wage from United at this point in time. He has to leverage both of those things until it's a certainty what is going to happen with his career and what's going to happen with Madrid. That isn't going to be settled right now. That will be settled later. So yes, at the moment that deal might look difficult, but at the moment he's focused on the World Cup and his agent is doing his job. There's no guarantees on this front, but if they get together and decide he's going to leave, then that changes. But for now, he has to keep that leverage because for Madrid and him, it's new contract or sell. He can't drop his leverage on Madrid either. And that's the situation with the three major signings, the three major potential midfielders that we could look at. And there's certainly going to be names beyond that, but that's the three. So I just wanted to make that clear and talk through it. I really wanted to react to that France situation because that was almost an insane goal from Michael Elise. What the hell was that? But I had to get through what I was saying and make it clear. And also because I needed to a clip and that'll make it for, I needed to make like a better clip there. Damn, that shot from Elise was nuts. How have France not scored? How the hell have they not scored, honestly? Actually crazy. Jesus, man. Witch doctor done his thing against France or what? Yeah, I don't know. How we let Elise go to Bayern as criminal? It's a bummer, dude. He was our top target that summer, but really wanted Champions League. We didn't have the finances to compete. We didn't have the Champions League to compete. But yeah, Ineos, Wilcox loved him. Wilcox loved him. He was the only guy in there. I don't want to keep saying Ineos. Wilcox was a big fan. He was one of the only guys in there, and he wanted him bad. You think France, if France get knocked out, it's wide open. If France get knocked out, I'm rooting so hard against Argentina. So hard against Argentina, man. I can't, I don't, just because I don't want to see a, I want to see something. I want to see something different, and I'd be okay with France winning it, but they got to be the favorites now. If France got knocked out, who the hell knows, man? Sweden's attack is decent. Gyökeres is not involved. Yeah, Isak and Gyökeres together should make a pretty decently strong attacking partnership, but they don't seem to have the quality to get the ball forward. Morocco are serious contenders. I'm telling you, Norway and Morocco, man. Norway, I really rate Norway. You watch that game against Ivory Coast. Norway are good, dude. They create a lot of chances, and Holland had a bad game, and they still managed. They're a good team. They're a really, really, really good team, Norway. But Morocco, their organization, their commitment, their energy together is carrying them very, very far. Very, very far. Oh man, they're just shooting on sight right now. You kind of feel like France have to just go a couple more steps forward, because they're shooting from far away when they're getting out here. They're forwards. They're almost too confident at the moment. Get a little closer. Oh wow, the announcer literally speaking as I'm speaking, but get a little closer to goal there and take a shot. They've been rushing some outside the box ones. But it's fun, man. It's fun. I'm enjoying the game. Sander Berg looked incredible again for Norway. I'll tell you who looks like crap is Odegaard. Even when Norway are playing well, I look at Odegaard and I think he's playing like poo. But Nusa, Sander Berg, their defenders, very impressed with them. Very impressed with them. Nusa looks good too. Really, really good. That's a winger I would love United to sign. They've watched him. I mean, he's good. Norway versus Brazil is going to be a game. Still like Ulai? Yeah, TBD on that one. I tell you what, I will say, if you want to get a little bit like just to Muppet on it, not like just for fun. Nothing really of substance here yet. Oh. Wow. Okay. Tchouameni good press. They've kept it. Oh my God, they just keep launching from outside the box. I'll tell you something about Ulao. There are people working to bring him to the Premier League. Okay? There are people working to bring him to the Prem right now. I can tell you that. Trying to organize a deal because sometimes it's complicated. There are people working to bring him to the Prem, and he's gonna be at least offered. I wouldn't be surprised to see links because he's gonna be offered. He's gonna be offered to United. But hey, maybe they've got it. Maybe they have him on our radar somewhere. Christ Olao, the young midfielder, the Ivory Coast one who plays in Turkey. You guys didn't hear me? Oh, a lot of people probably don't know the name, huh? Maybe I didn't say it clear enough, but yeah. There are going to be people working on bringing him to the Prem. I was just talking about him. I said his name like 3 times before I talked about that. The Ivory Coast midfielder who plays for Ivory Coast. Yeah, or plays in Turkey. Yeah, he's quite impressive. Yeah, he's very good. Really good. He's definitely putting himself on radar. What team? I don't know. Like, all I'm saying is he's going to be offered to a lot of teams, and including United. So, just TBD, I guess. We could see him in the Prem, though. And Sweden cannot get on the ball. They finally have a little bit here, and they're just going to send it forward and lose it again. That's poor. Plays with Onana Trabzonspor. Yeah. Singo's a good player. Yeah, he tore his hamstring, unfortunately. I think that hurt Ivory Coast, honestly. Ulai? Aulai? I don't know. I'm probably saying it wrong. It's a tough name for me. Bournemouth? Could be. Yeah, obviously there's a risk in it, and I'm just saying he's certainly gotten on. Oh, Elise again. Good God, man. I'm just saying there's a lot of talk, Oh! Oh my God. Finally. What a goal. What a goal. Finally, the breakthrough for France. Been coming, I mean, not even close. Inevitable. Yeah, and well deserved. I mean, they've been all over Sweden. They're on another planet right now. They are on another planet. Impressive. Great stuff from Mbappe. Nearly as good as Ahmad? Yeah. Almost. Let's see if France sit a little here or not, you know? Oh my God, what? What? How did they not? Now Sweden had a good chance. How have they missed? Chaos. This is chaos, man. Mm. Good Lord. What gives me confidence? I don't have any reason to doubt them. I just don't, man. I don't know. Look, when you're talking about things that haven't happened yet, what can you do but trust? You know? If you're in a business and you're running things and you've got an employee and you've given them a task, what gives you confidence? You either trust them or you don't. That's offside. You either trust them or you don't. You know what I mean? It's their job. You've given them the job. Do you trust them or do you not? You're talking about the future. You know, you're talking about things that haven't happened yet. You don't have a choice except to say, do I trust them? Well, I trust them. It's that simple. I think they've given me enough evidence that I trust them. I trusted them last summer. They pulled it off. I'm trusting them now until they give me reason not to. That's just in my nature. If they give me a reason not to and fail, then I'll change my mind. You know? But I'll tell you what, again, everything I've heard over the last month has been true and has gone the way that I've expected it to go. So I am where I am on it. I could complain because Ederson is over. I mean, that's honestly the Ederson thing. That's why I knew it, right? I was so annoyed by the whole Ederson narrative because I knew this was going to happen. I've seen people already writing tweets, you know, Ederson's ruined our summer because it means we can't buy players. You know what I mean? Like, he's ruined our summer. What are we talking about here, you know? What do you mean he's ruined our summer? We got a really good player at a good value. How's he ruined our summer? You know? I don't know. It's weird. It's just I think that's brilliant, honestly. I think we've stolen a march on a lot of clubs with that deal, but it really depends on if you rate him or not, and a lot of people don't, so fair enough, but the club do. And I trust their talent ID right now. I mean, I look at the players that they want, I think makes sense. I understand why they want Mateus, a good player. I understand why they want Alex Scott, really good player. Why Tchouameni, why all of this, Ederson, I understand it. They're good players. I'm not worried about their ability to spot a good player, so if they think they've got a good deal, I think they've got a good deal. And I'm happy with it, you know? If it doesn't work out, well, then I'll readjust my view later on. So it's all about evidence. Why do I give comments like that airtime? You know why? Is because I guess that it offers an opportunity to educate. That's all. Because there's people who are not making those comments that think that way. Liam Delap, the only black mark on the list of talent ID. Yeah, and I can explain that one away, you know, very reasonably. It was 30 million. It was 30 million. It was an opportunity signing. 30 million pounds, release clause. You know, when you had a lot of other stuff you wanted to get done. So yeah, I can look at that and go, okay. I understand it. It was low risk. I didn't rate him, but it was low risk for 30 million. You know, especially when we had Hoyland at the time. You know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, he could definitely be better than Hoyland for 30 million. I'm okay with that. I can see that. I don't think he would have been nearly as bad at United as he was at Chelsea. I mean, that's the other factor I do have to say in this. I don't think Delap was ever like a world beater or as good as people have said. You know what I mean? But Chelsea is an utter mess. And, you know, Chelsea is a total mess. I think that I don't think Delap would have been that great, but I am 100% sure he would have done better here than he did at Chelsea. I don't think he was very good. I think he would have ended up still just being an okay backup striker at his peak. But yeah, he's, you know, Chelsea is even worse. Chelsea was just a terrible career move, but that tells you all you need to know. Fine, he made that choice and he's paying for it. I mean, you know. Yeah, it was a cheap option. You know, that's how I see it, and I'm not gonna panic about that. I mean, what the hell? Who cares? All right, a cheap option didn't work out. So be it. So be it. And we didn't sign him in the end, so but part of the reason we didn't sign him, by the way, okay, here's what never gets mentioned. You ready? Here's what never gets mentioned when people go, oh, the Delap comparison, you know, in all of this. One of the reasons we didn't sign him is because we didn't offer him the most money. So we stuck to our guns in terms of saying, no, we're not going to just throw money at the problem, because while we like this player and we value him, we're not just going to pay whatever it takes. It was money. It was money. It was money. It's always money. It's always been money. Money is how players get chosen. Money is why they go where they go. Money is why Fernandes went to Spurs. It's always money. Money and agents. So, you know, the funny part about the Delap thing is, despite how it gets said, is just more evidence of the fact that how important it is to stick to your principles on the purchases, stick to your disciplines. They didn't want to offer the kind of contract Chelsea were offering, so they didn't get him. Good. The risk is baked into the value. Kind of that simple. But yeah, it's always money, man. End of the day, like it was with, like it was here with Mateus. It's always money. McKenna made him look better. Yeah, McKenna's a good coach, man. McKenna's a very good coach. Big fan. Took a break, which was sort of interesting. But Whispering isn't good for your sensory issues. Sorry. I couldn't help it. Just you gotta whisper those things because people don't like to talk about it. Manu Kone from Roma is a very, very good player. He's decent, and United have looked at him in the past, but yeah. No one's talking about his wages being 250 at 21. He'll want 300 or more when he's 24. Yeah. Sully deleted the tweet about the bid. I don't know why. I saw that, but I don't know why. And like I said, my information differed a little bit from what was in that tweet, but I mean, it doesn't matter, dude. There's, like I've said before, you're always going to get people, you're always going to get different answers from different areas and different people and perspectives. I can only speak from mine. I understand what has been reported by most others. Some people were just talking out of their ass, right? But I understand what's been reported by most people through this and why they've said it. I just, I've got my own perspectives, so that's where my info comes from. It's not there, DBX. If you refresh and stuff, then it disappears. It might show, but if you do a hard refresh on his page, it's gone, as far as I can see. And then if you click on it, it disappears. I don't know why he deleted it. I mean, look, maybe the price is right. Maybe it was wrong. It doesn't really matter. You're going to get different info from different areas. Man, I've been in the situation many, many times, honestly, many, many times of saying stuff, obviously, and then it doesn't pan out. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes shit just happens, man. And it changes, and there's nothing you can do about it because you can't predict the future. And unless you're first to everything, someone else is going to report it before you can. And then you're going to look like, a fool. It's just life, man. Or people are going to assume everything you've done is wrong, everything you've said is wrong, and give you a hard time for it. It's one of the toughest things, Now, I'm pretty careful these days so that because this shit happens, man. Because transfers are such a mess, and it's so hard to be right. There's a reason David Ornstein rarely ever speaks. If you intend to give regular updates, you're gonna end up being wrong a lot, and it's not your fault. You can have really good information at the time, and you can end up being and it can still go wrong for you, and it's tough, man. It's really tough. I'm confident in Sully having a lot of really good information and good connections. Just because it didn't work out, I understand where he reported the things he reported and all that kind of stuff. There's other people I have absolutely zero trust in the things that they say. But, that's different. I've spoken enough with Sully myself to know that he has good information. But transfers are such a pain in the ass, dude. I if I didn't talk about all this other stuff anymore, I'd have gone crazy by now. It was just transfers because it's so hard. It's so freaking hard, dude, to cover transfers. There's so many unknowns. There's so many times you have to say, I don't know. There's so many times you have to be like, shit, don't know. There's so many times you have to go, well, I didn't have a clue about that. There's so many times where you're going to say something and then the next day something different comes out and you look like you look, and it is what it is, man. That's life. Because there's also so many different perspectives, right? And then there's also club narratives. The number of times I've reported something and then it's gone the other way because agents put out a different briefing or the club put out a different briefing because they're all protecting their image. I'll give you an example. Someone asked me the other day, I think in Discord, the worst transfer in terms of I got it wrong. You know what I mean? And I think the biggest one was probably, there was ones in the past, like Sancho, things like that. I didn't know what the hell I was doing back then. I had I had sources. Most of them were just wrong at the time about everything. But the one that always sticks out in my mind is Darwin Nunez. because I had a very, 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 very good source on that one. Really good source. And I was ahead of it on there even being the interest, on his potential move to the Prem, on all of it before the hype built up. I had a good line on it. He idolized Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm telling you that. He idolized Cristiano Ronaldo as his favorite player growing up. He wanted to join United over anything. He was desperate for it. He loved United. He preferred to move to United. United were looking at him strongly. They were super into it. What happened? Ten Hag comes in with his veto, delays the deal, We had meetings with his agent in person at Carrington on regular occasions to line it up. Ten Hag comes in, a couple scouts leave. Ten Hag wants to focus on something else. He thinks, I'm going to get Anthony Martial going. Jorge Mendes steps in on the deal, brokers a deal to Liverpool, and puts out everywhere across the world that Darwin Núñez always preferred Liverpool and they beat United, and he was always focused on United, or on Liverpool rather. And they looked super foolish on the whole thing because I specifically said he wants to join United. It was true. He preferred United. Doesn't matter. That's when I learned about Jorge Mendes and don't trust Jorge Mendes. That's when I learned to never, ever, ever say, which applied to this one on Mateus, never talk about where a player prefers when Jorge Mendes is involved. You're going to lose. He doesn't give a shit. And he will say the opposite later. And you'll get briefs later on and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, look at it today. Now you're getting things, well, actually it was unclear. Where did Mateus Fernandes want to go? You know, where did he want to happen? You know, what? It wasn't wrong. Mateus Fernandes, I'm sure, preferred to move to us. 100% I'm sure of it. I'm sure that information was totally correct from Sully and such. It was also correct when I said it about Darwin Núñez years ago. But these agents, man, these agents will kill you. They'll just change it and then they'll brief something different. Yeah, I mean, Housen has that big famous one with Morata and all that. But he was right. He was right. You know what I mean? He was totally right. It's just United switched it up at the last second and went for Lukaku. They were ready to go, man. They were ready to go on that deal. But that's how it goes in this game. And then they're going to say, you know, and then obviously everybody's going to want to put out, we got our top target. That was actually our signing all along. The narratives start flying. You know, like take Ten Hag, for example. The Ten Hag versus Poch one is another one. You know, that one was a big one because my information for a long time was that Pochettino was viewed as the main candidate. And he was. Pochettino was the candidate. Pochettino was viewed by analysts and scouts as the better fit, the better coach, the guy who could get the most out of the squad, the better follow-up to Solskjaer. What happened? He and Ten Hag had interviews with Joel and Murtaugh and Richard Arnold. Polls got posted on Twitter. And they went another direction and ignored all the information and just picked. And then it was always, Ten Hag, he was viewed as the best up-and-coming coach and the best fit for the squad and the best this and the best that. And he was going to develop the young players. And he was actually the guy who was going to get the most out of the squad. And it wasn't about the money. And then he went and spent $350 million on trash. You know? But I'm just saying this is what happens. You know what I mean? This is what happens, man. It's tough. It's really, really tough. Really, really, really tough. To get, especially to get everything right. You know, you can be right and you can be wrong. You know what I mean? Oh shit, is the game on? Sorry. My bad, dudes. Okay. All right. Game's back on. You can be right so many times and you can be wrong at the same time. And it's like, it's all perceptions. I mean, the Sheshko Watkins one from last summer, certainly one. I remember waking up to all sorts of stuff about how I was so wrong about saying that Watkins was the preferred option. No, he was, man. If I told you where I heard that from firsthand, give me a break, dude. Like, trust me, the guy was the preferred first choice at the time. What they didn't tell you and what didn't go out there, which is understandable, you know, United doing their thing, it was, of course, that they made a move for Watkins, but got denied on the price by Aston Villa, and so quickly pivoted to the next option. That's all. It was that simple. You know, it was reported by like one person. I think it was Chris Wheeler who reported that we actually had gone to Villa and put forward 55 million as an offer for Watkins, and then they said no. You know? And we moved to Sheshko right away, and then Sheshko was our top priority. We figured he's the better choice, blah, blah, blah. It's all good.
What was the truth of ETH and Ronaldo that summer?
What about it? I'll tell you the truth about Ten Hag is that he was a dickhead that none of the players liked and respected, and as has been shared, he had a closed-door policy, wouldn't talk to people, wouldn't engage in conversation. I think Ronaldo went about things the wrong way, but he was wrong. He was right about what he said about Ten Hag, about not giving respect. He attempted to engage with Ten Hag in conversations about, some of the situations that were going on between the two of them. Ten Hag wasn't interested in talking. Essentially just shut him out and shut everybody out and did his own thing, which he did to Varane later, probably because he was close to Ronaldo, I would imagine. So it's kind of that. How on earth did Ten Hag make it with that kind of attitude? Because he was given so much power at the club, and they were too shit scared to put against it because he was popular with fans. The old regime had no balls of any kind. Everything was driven by fan emotion and narrative. They were always shit scared of fans. But the Watkins-Sheshko thing, you have to bear in mind, once again, is just another example to me of success in being disciplined in your approach. They liked Watkins a lot. Watkins is good. What did he score? 15 goals again? Good. Won the Europa League. Watkins is good, man. But they placed the top-end value. They didn't go past that top-end value. They went to another target. They paid it. They got a good player. These are all positives in sticking to your disciplines. Otherwise, they might have paid 75, 80 million for Watkins because they preferred him at that time. And it's not necessarily that they thought Watkins is a better player. It was more like they were worried about having a young striker without the goals and the experience at that point in time. So it was like, yeah, Sheshko's going to be more, his potential is higher, but Watkins is a bit more of a sure thing. And they felt like they needed a sure thing because we didn't have these players. Sancho was right to be pissed at Ten Hag. He absolutely was, but Sancho is also extremely unprofessional. So it takes two in many instances, And I'm not going to sit and defend Sancho for sure. Don't get me wrong. He's proven his lack of professionalism elsewhere, just like Garnacho, I don't have to worry about that. But certainly Ten Hag could have done way better with it. Some of what happened was very unfair, but for Sancho, you're still in control of the way you react to things. And he was really crap in the way that he dealt with things too. Like, it wasn't, I think Ten Hag went about it horribly, to be honest. Like, actually horribly, made it so much worse. But it doesn't mean that it was wrong, you know, that Sancho would have worked out or anything, so. Oh! 2. Barcola. And that's dusted. That's dusted. Sweden have no way back now. No way back now. They are not really been in this game for even a minute, feels like. Does anyone know why? I don't know, man. I'll reach out to him. So United saying looking at Bowen could be the experienced forward. Yeah, I don't. Will they want to sell him? I'm not sure. I mean, I think we'd prefer Somerville, obviously, younger player and all that. But Bowen is a bit of a. Was Sully's tweet true? I mean, I have slightly different numbers and information. Certainly, United were willing to, but I'm not worried about that, dude. Like, I'm just telling you, when it comes to those numbers, like, we may never know the actual exact number. You're going to get a different number from a lot of different people, to be honest. It was largely close for sure to at least what I've heard. So I imagine maybe he's right. Maybe that was right and mine's wrong, you know, in that sense. I'm not confident enough in those things to say either way, but I think largely it's around the numbers for sure, what he said. Yeah. Why would we go back to West Ham? Why wouldn't we? You know, I mean, I don't think it's like they did what they did and someone else paid. I mean, it's not like they did anything wrong. It's a crazy price, but someone paid. So, you know, at the end of the day, I guess, you know, we don't really, I don't like dealing with West Ham, but like, you know, we don't really have a reason to not deal with them. Look at this shit around the goalkeeper, man. Football is so cooked on these set pieces. Like, they overpriced us out of a target? Yeah, but someone else paid, so it wasn't an overprice for them. They got what they wanted. Martha Stewart at the France vs. Sweden game. That is not a celebrity I was expecting to see today. Want to do the same for Somerville? No, not necessarily, because they've already set the price. They've said 50 million for him. It's a little much. I think that if we go for 40 plus some add-ons, it's not that bad. Maybe 35 plus add-ons. The question is, was anybody going to pay 50? If not, then we have a stronger negotiating stance than the situation around Mateus. Maybe she's just a big fan of Sweden because of all their kitchen stuff. It's possible. France because of their cooking, Sweden because of their fish kitchen stuff. I mean, you know, their appliances and their could be. Who's your ideal window from here? Ooh, ideal window. I don't care about the backup keeper. Zion Suzuki would be sick if we could come back for that one. Tchouameni, 100%. Lewis Hall. The third mid. Who would be my ideal third midfielder tying all this together? I don't know. Maybe Alex Scott, but that might be a little bit.
More disparaging stories about ETH.
More disparaging stories? No. It's all alleged. It's all alleged anyway. I mean, I've said a lot of stuff. I don't really want to talk about Tanag anymore. What's the sitch with Rashi? Like I said, I think that with him being at the World Cup, with him being in the England side, with the present situation, with the changes from FIFA about no bomb squad, stuff like that, you know, players got to be integrated if they have contracts, things. I think it just makes sense to have a simple situation and put it out there that he's open for reintegration. But I don't think it changes the reality of the situation, which is that he's most likely to leave and from both parties would prefer a clean split this summer. If nobody buys him, fair enough. That could change. Can Hall still happen? I mean, maybe. According to Annie Minton, none of our young midfielders are ready for first team. I've said that for a year. Unfortunately. I'm fully with that. You know, there's guys who they like, Fletcher, Thwaites, but in terms of ready for United's first team at the levels we're aiming for, no. Maybe for occasional minutes here and there, but you're not talking about a serious squad option at that point. You're talking about someone who can, you're giving some chances to. Another big hit, Elise. Do I rate Spurs transfer window as a whole? I think they've gotten some decent players, to be fair. Senese, Van Heck. Yeah, they've gotten good players, and they've made themselves better. But that on paper doesn't always work out. And for me, that's the issue with Spurs. I also think they've given themselves some problems. You know what I mean? They've given themselves some problems with the kind of fees and wages that they're offering for future deals as well as with the squad itself. I'll tell you what I'll say about Tchouameni when I watch him play and I watch France. It's exactly what I like in a defensive midfielder. I don't really notice him. He's just almost boringly effective in his role. Not rushing out of position, tends to be back where he's supposed to be. Not crazy with the, taking big risks with the pass. Very, very solid. And you don't always notice how effective they are. Getting in passing lanes, shutting down angles from the team, from the opposition. I think with a defensive midfielder, you don't want to be talking about them all the time. If you are, then they're probably out of position. They're probably doing something crazy, charging in for a slide. Maybe it pans out, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, he's not having to do too much, but he started the move for the second goal. Just, it's basic stuff, man. But it's he's very effective and very disciplined at it to where you don't really have to, like, worry about it. You know what I mean? It's just cool. Like, you watch Sweden go forward, watch his position, how he's always between the ball and the strikers, directing traffic in the passing lanes right where he should be. It's just simple stuff. Scanning, scanning, scanning. There he is in the middle. Look how he doesn't rush forward. Stays moving backwards. Like, you might think, oh, rush out, win the ball, win the tackle. No, stays home just in front of the back line. Keeps the middle blocked off and trusts his team to do the rest. I think that's exactly what you want out of a 6, some stability. You rush out of position, maybe you make the tackle, maybe you don't. And then the angles open up. But he's always in, there you go. Again, if you just watch him, it's real interesting. When he runs, when he moves really, really quick. Immediately steps in front of Isak. Yeah, you saw that as well, right? When it moves to one side and Isak kind of dropped, he immediately takes a little run to step in front of him. But you can't go through the middle. You just can't go through the middle there. There he is. Interception. Boom. Exactly where he's supposed to be. Perfectly placed. That whole sequence was the perfect definition of Tchouameni. That entire sequence. And then it starts a counter. It starts an attack that goes the other way. That entire sequence was that whole possession for Sweden is a perfect example of what your defensive midfielder is supposed to do. And it goes under the radar. Constantly cutting off the middle, positioning himself to stop the ball from getting to the strikers. Ball finally progresses down the wings a little bit more. Boom. Steps over, interception, clogs the area, releases the pass out, and they're off in the attack. Perfect. Perfect. No notes. It's exactly what you want. And it's boring. And it's good. And it's not rushing out into slides, and it's not rushing out into huge tackles. It's just good stuff, man. What else can you say? It's just good stuff. It's funny how often the referee... Yeah, the ref is always in a pretty good defensive midfield. Look at that cross! That's a great cross right there. That's a great pass from Tchouameni right there. They're dominant. Yeah, they are, but that's not my point. My point is, it's like you can still watch the individual and see how they play the game. But playing in a dominant team is good. That's where we need to be. That's a foul from Koundé. Anywhere will do. I'm just saying, you watch individuals, you can kind of see it. You can see what they do. It doesn't matter what the team they're in sometimes. It'll be frustrating when we don't get him and we get Sanderberg instead. It's going to be heartbreaking. Yeah, look at him drop over there, defend Ilanga. When the ball goes on that side, steps in front of him, and forces Sweden to recycle.
Alexi Lalbridge's 45-minute tirade attacking Ineos for overpaying a player he doesn't rate fuels fan hysteria and hatred toward prospects like Berge or Baelba. This divisive
Or
content
Ederson,
is
yeah.
the real problem.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because it's a big reason why you get so much hate for guys like Ederson. You know, and a lot of times it's speaking out of both sides of your mouth to try to get content and to just, you know, be this elite thing about criticizing the owners as always, because it makes you a real fan. You know what I mean? I know people that were Ederson fans a year ago, Ederson fans a few months ago, and then they're criticizing the deal. You know, same person. Was a big fan of Ederson, started criticizing the deal as soon as it was about to happen. You know, I've seen the same clips of certain people talking about how they don't rate Mateus that much. He's actually only probably a 60, 65 million player, and it's overpriced. And then going on a tirade against the owners and everything because we didn't end up paying 20 million over what they themselves said he wasn't worth. It's all for clicks. It's all for views, you know. Also, one can feel superior, you know, criticize the owners. But yeah, it sucks because it does actually cause problems in the fan base, man. Think about Maguire, the abuse that was driven on him, Rashford, situations that have gone around on the leagues. A lot of it comes down to narratives that are driven out there. I fear for Ederson in that sense because, you know, hopefully United are stable enough within and in the dressing room now to support it. They probably weren't in the past, but, you know, yeah, I do feel for him because he's going to be up against it right off the bat with the narrative being pushed. And if we sign somebody else that's not the super elite marquee signing, they're going to face the same noise, the same problems. That is frustrating for sure. Totally. Isn't good look for prospective players coming? Yeah. There's only one cure to fan base issues, and it's winning. People enjoy being miserable. Yeah, but I mean, I agree. You know, when we win a title and all of that, right? But think about this year. First half of the season, we went from, you know, 15th to actually being competitive. And understandably, people's problems with Ruben Amorim, but it was still so negative considering where we were at. Now we finished third. We've had a great transfer windows. We've signed great players. Money is better. Everything's better. We're finally listening to football people. We finally have discipline. The on-the-pitch results are improving. And it's just moan. At the end of the day, it's been so normalized in the United community. Probably because of years. It's been allowed to take a hold because of so many years of being piss poor, right? There's no doubt that that's the reason why it's gained popularity, is because people are looking for an outlet for all the years of frustration and such. And, you know, it feeds that. But even when we're good, even when things are getting better, it's just constant negativity. Forever, man. Like, at this point, anybody objective would be looking at Ineos and going, damn, they've improved things. If you actually looked at the whole picture, improved things dramatically across the board. Are we there yet? No. Okay. Took Fenway a while to get, you know, Liverpool to win a title. So no, we're not there yet. Oh my God, Mbappe through. Elise's screwed it up. How's Elise messed that touch up, man? And if they don't get it done, fine. Then we'll complain. Then I'll be negative. Then I'll be upset about it. But it hasn't happened. If we get worse next season, then I'll get upset about it. But it hasn't happened. No, of course. It's not just, look, it works because there's a market for it. If I screamed and raged and stuff, there would be more viewers. There's a lot of people who want that, and it's fine, man. It's people are allowed to produce whatever content that they want. I personally can't do it. I just don't know how. I've had my moments, but I don't know how. It would be worth a lot more money. A lot more clips, a lot more stuff. Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. No way, dude. Oh, my God, man. Holy, dude. Mbappe is on another planet. God damn, what a goal. Wow. That's crazy, dude. That's very, very crazy. Just not fair. It's just not fair. France's forwards are just so good. I mean, look what he does there. Wow. Everything about that. Fuck off, man. But yeah, look, guys, don't worry about it. I'm not trying to even start like any drama or anything like that with somebody else. It's just there's just different styles. I do think I do have a problem with some of it because I do think it causes problems, and I think it ends up being very unfair for players. It's offside. It's really close, you know. Can we see the lines here? That looked close. The angle's tough there. It's on, apparently. Been confirmed. We didn't see the lines, but apparently confirmed. The player at the bottom would have been the one keeping him on. It was close, but apparently confirmed. Man, how is Mbappe already there? One off of Messi for most World Cup games of all time. Sweden ripped apart here. France is 3 goals in every match, man. Man. Nice, Tchouameni. Oh. On the run again. Oh my God. France not score. Again. Jeez. Why is Mbappe not bad, but such a struggle for Madrid, you know? It's been weird for Madrid. Something's wrong there, because, I mean, what we're seeing from France here is unbelievable. Madrid could play like this. Like this style of play, they could play like this. But there's something off about how they play. Like, I've seen more energy out of him here for France. Strange. Nice from Tchouameni. Nice passes through the lines from Mr. Can't Pass. Good dribbles, good awareness of space. Yeah, I'm sold on Tchouameni already. I don't need to sell myself any further here. Mbappe and Vinny not together. You think that's it? You think it's the other forwards? I think Bellingham. Bellingham. I don't want to talk about Jude. I don't want to talk about Jude, man. Overrated. 1 goal against some horrible team. And suddenly he's the GOAT again. He's the greatest midfielder again. I find Jude so hard to stomach. And it's not that he's not good or talented, but I think he plays in a way that is terrible. I don't think he suits the team with the forwards that they have. Like, at all. And I think he often is playing for himself. For the glory. Wants everybody to know how good he is. And he's the midfielder. That's the problem. He's like every time I want to describe him, I want to talk about Scott McTominay, like as a comparison. But like as an attacking midfielder, he's the opposite of like a Bruno. It's not that he isn't super talented. I'm just saying he's just like, he just wants to crash the box and score, not create for others. But when you have such good forwards like Madrid have, I feel you'd be a better team with a guy who creates for others. So maybe it's more just about fit. But like I look at it and I'm going, if you have Mbappe, if you have Vinny, I'm building my team around feeding them, not trying to score myself. I guess that's what I would say. And Salati had him at 10 in a diamond. See, that's different, right? Because in a diamond formation, you're ahead of 3 mids. You're basically just a false 9. Makes sense. And as basically a false 9, it kind of makes sense to me. But yeah. Yeah, he was a false 9 kind of. Right, exactly. I think that's probably your best use case for him. Same with McTominay. But I think that's probably your best use case for Jude. My Jude thing is a bit of a meme, you know what I mean? Like it's a bit of a gimmick that I run, but it's mostly because like he really is like sort of an odd profile of player. Very talented, very technically gifted in a lot of ways, but very good goal scorer. But he's more like, I don't know. It's just he's just an odd fit with the forwards that they have there. Like I think that's where he was better at, to a degree, better at Dortmund. I don't know. Hard to say. Oh, Barcola. Wow. Almost. Good dribbles. Sweden are just ripped apart, man. Sweden are just eating it. Look at them both dive in for a tackle there. Impressive. But yeah, honestly, I can't see anybody beating France. I do think he's super corny, DV. It's like Jason Tatum. I don't know how to describe it. It's just guys that are just so corny, and I can't. But their gimmick is so. I just can't buy it. It feels so inauthentic to me. I don't know what to do about it, dude. It's just, it's visceral, and it just happens, man. There's just guys who just have like this gimmick, and I just don't like it. I just don't find them authentic. I hate inauthenticity. I hate people who are like acting. I don't know what to do about it, man. I can't change my view on that, even if logically I try to see it a different way. Jason Tatum, he's an NBA player. And if you listen to them like talk and how they act, it's the same to me. You know? Like when Jude against Ghana is like, gets man of the match and he's like, shouldn't have been me. Should have been a Ghana player. Fuck off. Like, I don't believe it. You know what I mean? I don't know how to say it, dude. But I look at him say that and I think, you're full of it, man. Like, you know, it's such a cringe thing to say, you know, in that situation. Like, I don't know. It's just doesn't feel real. I can't explain it. It just, yeah, the thing with his parents gives the Ball family. Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of funny because a couple of the Ball kids actually turned out like really, really well and really balanced on the way that they actually play basketball, and their personalities are like actually super authentic. So it's kind of funny, but yeah. I don't know how to explain it, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's probably not fair, but it's how I feel. There's nothing I can do about it now. Anyway, guys, this one's almost over. I'll be back tomorrow for England. Arteta and Turkey. Okay. I'll be back in the morning for England. Let's see what time brings. Maybe, you know, obviously United got to move. United got to move on some signings. They got to get stuff done. They've got to get a midfielder in. I don't know who it's going to be at this stage, but whoever it is, they've got to get some stuff done. They've got to put in work, and we can only speculate right now as to, oh, look, we're seeing the lines. Yeah, there you go. That was tight. Really tight. Nobody can know. Right now, we're all speculating about what's going to happen in the market, who we're going to sign. I think Scott, and based on everything I hear, Scott and Tchouameni, solid options. I'm very curious on the Nemcha thing. If anything else happens on that, I'm very curious to see if Baleba picks up again. Maybe there's some surprises out there as well, but yeah, been impressed. I've definitely been focusing more on Tchouameni in this game, and again, it's not exciting stuff, but I think he's exactly what we're missing in the midfield. Like, you think about the freedom he's going to give Kabi and Bruno if he were to be in our team. The freedom to get forward, the freedom to attack, the freedom to move, where you have a guy who knows going to be disciplined, who's going to sit there and, you know, who's going to give you the ball, get it where it needs to be, defensively sound, and you just don't have to worry. That's how Tchouameni feels to me. Tchouameni got the captain's armband. I didn't realize that. comparing with like if you watch him and Casemiro, very, very different players, right? Casemiro always look at the pass from Tchouameni. Look at the pass. That was such a good pass too. Runner was offside, but great pass through the lines. Good vision and attempt there. But yeah, when you look at the difference between him and Casemiro, they're just different stylistically. I'm not going to talk about qualities and stuff, but Tchouameni definitely a different, more simple, disciplined type of defender, traditional in a sense, where Casemiro's always been a little more reckless. Not always a bad thing, because when he was in his prime, that was incredibly effective. But yeah. Now, I know I got to be careful here. I'm still not confident enough on anyone. I'm confident what we'll do. Oh, great interception. I gotta stop. Now that I'm watching Tchouameni, he's just so good. It's so simple. It's so effective. I am definitely setting myself up for a lot of pain here. Because yeah, I'm not confident enough on any individual. I'm confident on a signing. I'm confident on us getting a good summer, but I'm not confident enough on any individual yet to not be worried about getting my hopes attached to somebody. Oof, Gyökeres got a chance finally. It's pretty decent by Lindelof there. Whoa.
Can we get both Tchouameni and Camavinga? A man can dream. Realistically, if we get both Tchouameni and Scott, I would be thrilled.
I think that it sounds like there's no chance of Camavinga going anywhere, and he has more contract. I don't think we could get both. I'd love both, but it sounds like Camavinga has no chance of leaving. We're gonna have to wait and see on that, but I don't think that Madrid will be looking to sell both either way. If Camavinga leaves, Tchouameni is gonna stay. If Tchouameni leaves, Camavinga will stay. But it sounds like Camavinga's. I mean, look, all I can say is that from what the Athletic report, it's very strongly indicated that Camavinga is not leaving under any circumstances. That hasn't been stated about Tchouameni. He may be not preferring to leave at the moment, but nothing's definitive on how has been stated about Tchouameni at this point. And again, we held those talks earlier with him and his people, and he was open, so we just have to wait for Madrid on that. But Tchouameni and Scott would be beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Nice pass. Tchouameni through the lines. Oh, Mateta. Another attack started by Tchouameni forward, I don't know why. I personally didn't think it would be Tchouameni because, again, same thing. I thought Jose would really like him. However, look, Madrid have seemingly, and Jose have seemingly, attached their cart to the Valverde horse. And from the hints you get about this, all is not particularly well between Valverde and Tchouameni in that situation, and it's maybe not as simple as it's been made out. Obviously, they're not gonna make a big fuss out of it, but like publicly, but like obviously that situation is a bit interesting, but it seems to be largely because, related to all of that, that Valverde's their guy, and so, it seems to be going for a bit of a different style, to where Tchouameni becomes the extra. Not bad, not poorly rated, but just not the style. It surprises me, but gotta be something in it. Terrible by Turkey. We need another fight between Chu and Fetty. Well, we'll see when they go back, I mean, Valverde just became the club captain, right? So, excuse me. He just became the club captain, so. My timer is like way off. What's going on? What happened? Why's my time? Oh, no. Yeah, my timer got way off. Huh. Weird. All right. This whistle's about to be blown here. Let me just put my stuff up here. All right, boys. This one's about to be done. Thank you all for hanging out again for the second time today. 5 hours of videos today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me. France, definitely the favorites to win it all for me. Not even close. Let's see what the next days bring, because, yeah, nobody knows. I appreciate you all. We'll be back hanging out tomorrow for more excellent World Cup matchups. In fact, that France game was the first, non-close game of the entire knockout so far. So, yikes. All right, everyone. See you later. Enjoy your evenings. Goodbye, everybody.